shot him 6 times! I shot him 6 times! The evil is gone from here! Oh, I'm sorry. I was having a Donald Pleasance flashback. You know how it is. Well, this is it. October is almost over. Kind of depressing. Except for the fact that today is Halloween. So this is it. Our last Halloween movie month. Where's my green light? There. That's better. Halloween movie month. Alright, this is it. These are the big dogs. These are the films that any movie nut should be watching on Halloween. And maybe 1 or 2 of my personal favorites. First, arguably the scariest movie of all time, The Exorcist. Horror movies were never really looked upon as anything worth accolades or a lot of attention. Then comes along a movie so controversial, so disturbing, that it captures the world's attention. Nowadays, we're pretty accustomed to seeing disturbing things in movies, but for 1973, this movie was groundbreaking. People had literally never seen anything like it before. And the movie remains surreal and pretty darn creepy to this day. You almost feel like the movie has some sort of hold on you. People may not be as scared of this movie now like they were in the 70s, but it's still an essential horror film that scares you on every level and has aged very well. Alright, one last documentary I'm going to talk about. You may have seen this one on Netflix. It's called The American Scream. This is a documentary about a couple of families who are obsessed with making scary haunted houses for Halloween. These guys work all year long for one night a year. And it's really fascinating to see how quirky and how passionate these people get into it. You see the sacrifices they have to make and how much fulfillment they get out of creating the best haunted house imaginable. They say that you have to see someone love something before you can love it yourself. And that's just what this movie does. You see them get into it and you really get into it, and it's a fascinating look into these people's lives. So, sick of watching The Walking Dead? No? Well, you should go back and watch the original Night of the Living Dead anyway. The first zombie movie. Well, not technically. There were plenty of movies that had zombies in them before this movie, but this was the first one to introduce zombies as we know them today. Dead corpses who eat the flesh of the living. The plot is oh so simple. A zombie apocalypse has broken out with no explanation, and a group of survivors haul up in a farmhouse. No, not that farmhouse. It's in black and white and has a real low budget feel, which is fitting because it was really low budget. The movie has since fallen into public domain, so you can pretty much find it anywhere and everywhere. As a result, the makers of the movie didn't actually make much money off of it. However, what they did make was horror history. This movie was revolutionary for horror and the zombie subgenre. There would literally be no Walking Dead TV show if not for this movie. It's a classic fun movie that's best thrown on late at night. By the way, there are a lot of DVD copies of the movie. This is the one that you should find. I think this is the only copy that has this good of a restoration and this many special features. Next, it doesn't get much more quintessential Halloween movie than John Carpenter's Halloween. People who think of this movie as a standard slasher film continually frustrate me. To me, it's the idea of an evil force that you don't understand that makes it really scary. Michael Myers has no motive. He's a lurking shadow-like figure that is silently standing in the dark, just waiting. What's there to talk about in this movie that hasn't already been talked about? The music, the lighting, the cinematography, Donald Pleasant's speeches, the Halloween atmosphere. To me, it's an independent movie masterpiece. And the sequel, while not wholly necessary, continues right where the first one left off. In many ways, Halloween 1 and 2 are one film. They're both one complete story, even though the first one works well without 2. There's more blood this time around, but it still feels pretty brutal and it doesn't take away anything. Michael's still in the shadows as an ominous presence. Most of the movie takes place in a hospital, which I really like. Something about the long hallways at night gives me the creeps. Halloween is a must-watch for the season, but I also recommend watching these two movies back to back. So comedy, just like horror, is very subjective, but I'm gonna go ahead and call Young Frankenstein the funniest movie ever. Okay, maybe not, but it's one of my absolute favorite comedies. There's not one actor in this movie who isn't bust-a-gut funny. It's also a Frankenstein spoof, so that makes it perfect to watch around Halloween. You can tell that Mel Brooks had a real love for the original Frankenstein movies, all the way from the sets to the set pieces. It's a really lovingly made spoof. It was kind of like the Shaun of the Dead of its time, and it still remains in my eyes as a classic. By the way, if you only have the DVD version of this, you may want to upgrade to Blu-ray just because the DVD copy looks really bad on HDTV. Now it's time to take a journey to Sleepy Hollow. No, not that one. This one. The original Sleepy Hollow. That's right, Disney's 1949 short film is a lot of people's first introduction to the legendary American ghost story. And for my money, it's still the best. Okay, so I don't dislike Tim Burton's movie. It's a fun, campy, old-school style supernatural thriller. I think a lot of people were expecting it to be a little scarier than it actually is. But I look at it as Tim Burton's love letter to Hammer horror. He didn't care so much about the Sleepy Hollow story as he did about making a modern Hammer horror movie. I mean, it even has Christopher Lee in it. But you know what Tim Burton's version doesn't have? Being mother-flippin' Crosby. That's right, Mr. Boo 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 does all the voices and narration as well as classic singing. But the real fun of this story lies in that guy. I love this sequence. It's scary, it's funny, it's filled with thrills and chills. But don't worry, it's a Disney film, so I'm sure it'll have a nice ending. Oh my god! What happened? Was it real? Did he die? It's ambiguous. Well, that's awesome. If you don't have the DVD, don't worry. It's on YouTube. Now let's get into a really underrated classic. Okay, maybe it's not a classic, but it's definitely underrated. I first discovered the Halloween tree in my local video store, devouring anything animated and Halloween I could find. This TV movie was made for Cartoon Network back in the good old days of 1993, and based on an original novel by Ray Bradbury. It serves a little Halloween history lesson, as four friends are led through time by Mr. Mounshroud.
Mounshroud is the name. Carapace clavicle Mounshroud.
As they chase the ghostly image of their friend Pip, and try to save his magical pumpkin, which has his soul or something. I don't know, don't think about it too much. I mean, it never really says how they're time traveling, or even who Mr. Mounshroud really is. The point is the journey itself. Along with some cool Halloween trivia, we also get some genuinely creepy moments. The whole thing used to be on YouTube, but whoa, it has fallen even further from obscurity. But I still recommend seeing it however you can. I mean, it's even got the Ray Bradbury stamp of approval. So, it is now Halloween. You can watch any of these movies that I've recommended. But as for me, there is one movie that I will definitely be watching Halloween night. And that is this one. Halloween might be the most popular movie to watch this time of year, but Trick or Treat is one of the very best, and it's way more underrated than Halloween is. Sure, it's no horror classic, but it's probably the best movie solely about Halloween since, well, Halloween. It's a horror anthology that has a real creepshow comic book feel to it, but all the separate stories connect and intertwine in some really clever ways. You've got zombies, werewolves, ghosts, and some serial killers to boot. But probably my favorite aspect of this movie is that it just has a ton of Halloween atmosphere. It's like a nostalgic Halloween special for the new age. It takes everything we love about the season and puts it into one big melting pot. And what we get is like Halloween candy. Well, I hope you guys liked my Halloween special, and above all, I hope that you found some movies that you'd never seen before and really enjoyed them. I want to give a shout out to Landon Gillings, who made this t-shirt for me. Not specifically for me, but he made it and I bought it. You can find more shirts like it at his website, artisdumb.com. And I wish everyone who has watched this video a very happy Halloween.
Trick or treat, trick or treat, trick or treat for Halloween.